Right now, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, an enormous mass of warm water is building, and forecasters say there's better than a 4 in 5 chance it becomes one of the strongest El Niño events ever recorded. Scientists are already warning that 2027 could become the hottest year in recorded history. Here's exactly what's happening and why it matters for the whole planet. To understand a Super El Niño, you first have to understand what's normal. Under typical conditions, strong trade winds blow steadily from east to west across the tropical Pacific, pushing warm surface water toward Asia and Australia, while cooler water rises up from the deep ocean off the coast of South America to replace it. His constant westward push is part of what's called the Walker circulation, and it's one of the main engines driving global weather patterns. El Niño happens when those trade winds weaken, or even briefly reverse. Without that steady westward push, the warm water that's normally piled up in the western Pacific sloshes back eastward, spreading across the central and eastern Pacific instead. That shift in where warm water sits doesn't just affect the ocean, it fundamentally reshapes atmospheric circulation across the entire planet, shifting the jet stream, redirecting storm tracks, and altering rainfall patterns from Australia to the Amazon. A Super El Niño isn't a different phenomenon. It's simply an unusually powerful version of this same process, where sea surface temperatures in the key monitoring region of the Pacific rise dramatically above average for several consecutive months in a row. Only a handful of Super El Niño events have been recorded since 1950, including the powerful 1997 to 1998 and 2015 to 2016 events, both of which were followed by significant global temperature spikes. Right now, forecasters are watching this exact pattern intensify. Ocean heat content in the upper Pacific has been climbing rapidly, and the atmosphere has responded by locking into what meteorologists call a standing wave, a persistent, almost fixed pattern of rising air over the tropical Pacific that's no longer shifting around the way it normally would. According to the U.S. Climate Prediction Center, there's now roughly an 81% chance of a very strong El Niño developing through the final months of 2026, with conditions expected to persist into early 2027. Here's why that specifically threatens to make 2027 so hot. El Niño doesn't create new heat. It releases heat that's already been quietly accumulating in the deep ocean, transferring it up into the atmosphere where it directly raises global average surface temperatures. That effect stacks directly on top of the steady long-term warming trend already driven by rising greenhouse gas concentrations, meaning an El Niño year doesn't just add a small bump, it can push global temperatures well above what the underlying warming trend alone would produce. That's exactly the mechanism behind 2016 and 2024, both El Niño years, both record-breaking at the time. The effects won't be the same everywhere. Typically, Australia, Southeast Asia, and the northern United States and Canada tend to become hotter and drier, raising drought and wildfire risk, while the southern United States, parts of South America, and East Africa often see wetter conditions and greater flood risk. Even the Atlantic hurricane season is affected, since El Niño tends to increase wind shear, which can tear apart developing storms before they strengthen. A Super El Niño is essentially the planet's own heat release valve, opening wider than usual. At the same time, the underlying climate is already trending warmer than ever, which is exactly why so many scientists are watching 2027 so closely. If you want to understand how the world's landscapes were really made, subscribe for more landform explainer videos.